you a woman in medicine feeling overwhelmed and disconnected from the personal fulfillment that you desire? You're in the right place. Join Doctors Joanne and Aaron as they rewrite the rules for women in medicine. Let's begin.
Welcome to Create Meaning in Medicine. When you think of the concept of scarcity mindset, do you think of a women physician? And as our listener, have you identified with that concept of scarcity mindset? This is what I am going to be reviewing today with my amazing co-host, Dr. Erin Hurley, pediatrician and physician coach. And lately, we have been talking a lot, if you've been listening to our podcast, and if not, please do so, about limiting beliefs. We talked about the power of questions. We talked about confidence. And mindset comes to mind a lot, to be redundant on purpose, in terms of the different things. And it's sad in this world of medicine that we end up struggling with some of these things. And so before I keep on going on and on, Erin, let's start with defining, what do we even mean with that concept of scarcity mindset?
To me, it's what it isn't is abundant mindset. So I think of those contrasts, scarcity mindset versus abundant mindset. And something that comes to mind when I worked at a nonprofit several years ago, and we had one clinic, just a couple of programs, a limited number of staff, and we were kind of stuck in a rut because we thought, oh, it's too risky to expand our programs. What if we don't have enough in the budget? What if? And thinking about what are all the negative things that could happen. That was scarcity mindset, and it really kept us stuck. And then we had some changes in our leadership team, changes in the mindset of the entire organization, and it shifted to more of a what if? What if we could expand successfully? And we started shifting more towards an abundant mindset, recognizing, of course, we need to be mindful of our spending and not expanding too quickly. But it really allowed us to kind of break out of that little tiny box we were stuck in when we were just paralyzed by fear about going too big. And so scarcity is more about thinking about what are all the negative things that can happen. Why don't I have more money in my bank account? Why don't I don't have enough time in my day to exercise. I don't have enough time in my day to sleep. Can you relate to any of these things? I remember I used to think like that all the time, and it really is what I call that's what got me stuck in what I call victim mindset. And when I started working with a coach 20 years into my medical career, I finally shifted out of victim mindset, which was all about scarcity, and shifted into an abundant mindset, and which was all about empowerment. Did that help define it all? And what am I lacking versus what is possible?
Yes, and that's what I was going to say. The word that comes to mind for me is lacking. And thank you for the examples, because a lot of times we think of these concepts as binary, like either or. And it's good to remember that there's a transition, and that it's like we're talking in our last podcast, in the power of questions. It's that pause so that we can think about things from a little bit of a different framework. And if we're constantly thinking of the things that we don't have, the problems, it's not about minimizing that many times we do have struggles, yet we can look at it from that mindset, to keep on using the same word, or the filter of, but what if? What if we had everything that we needed? What if we can get more resourceful? What if we can ask for help? Right? So we don't need to change the circumstances to feel better, which is what we talked about several podcasts ago. So I love that, because I think in medicine, unfortunately, it's such a culture of struggle. And it's part of what we do, which is a beautiful thing. We help people in difficult times and when they're sick. So we're used to that. There's a problem, we got to fix it. And it makes us really good doctors. Yet, when we're thinking about other projects or our overall well-being, our personal lives, sometimes we keep that filter. And I would love to hear from you, Erin, in your work with other physicians. What are some of those things that you're hearing that are particularly difficult for women in medicine?
One is that I shared this on the last episode about the lack of energy. And so, if we think about the way our brains are wired, we know as physicians that our brains are wired with a negative bias. And that means that we're going to assume the negative unless we take a little bit of extra time, take a pause and shift to the positive. It takes a little more energy. So when we're depleted in energy, it makes it more difficult to take that pause and go, that 2% more effort, that 5% more effort. And because women physicians oftentimes are very exhausted, it can be easy to just slide into those old ways. And yet, the benefit of that pause, the benefit of shifting to a more positive mindset, a more positive question can really help us get unstuck from these beliefs that might seem impossible to get beyond, but really are not. And so, as we talk about some of the mindsets that women physicians that I work with have, a lot of times they think like that's too big of an ask, it's too overwhelming. I can't see myself getting there. Whether that's, can you take a 5 to 10 minute break from your computer at lunch? Oh, no, no, that's too much time. I'll get way too behind. Can you get to bed 15 minutes earlier in order to boost your energy and get better sleep? And a lot of times, oh, no, 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 there's no way I can do that. Can you find 5 minutes a day to move your body? And because we're so used to just being stuck in that limiting scarcity mindset, there's not enough hours in the day, there's not enough energy, there's not enough resources. I can't afford to do something that's self care. Then it really is just kind of answering everything with a no. No, that's not possible. And, we really talked in the last episode about the power of the right questions. Remember that, Joanne? And you talked about, I think it was if you have the right quality of questions will help determine the quality of your life. And so can you shift your limiting beliefs with the right questions? And remind me, Joanne, you just had some great questions that we had talked about before. And I know one of them was about, is there a better way? Is there a better answer to how I'm doing this? Remind me of a couple of other powerful questions that you have shared that are just can break through that ceiling where we're at.
Yes, and I love how all these topics that we're reviewing overlap and how some of these concepts can be transferable and we can use them to deal with different situations, including scarcity mindset that we're talking about today. And frequently, we don't have this beautiful, affirmation that we can reframe our thoughts. And yet, we can, if we find ourselves stuck in something that sounds very negative, especially in this scarcity, like if there's something missing, like you said, I don't have time, there's no way. Then just asking yourself, is there a different way I can think about this? And if we're in alignment with this topic, is there an option that brings me possibilities? Can I be more curious about this? Those are words that will open up to more abundance. It's not always about more or problem solved. It's just to keep our brains open to that mindset. And I love this conversations, Erin. And what what do you say too? Like, what are some things that we can do? Because even though, again, like I talk about all these things and I can be so helpful for others, and I get stuck, right? It's not like you have all the answers and then there's no more problems. So what are some of the tools that could be practical that we can use to help us feel better about this?
Well, one of the things I want to do is insert some notes that I took with meeting with a client that really stimulated this conversation because it was so powerful and this evidence of this client learning to self coach. And so we were talking about a pretty big goal that she had. And I was asking her the question, what beliefs are getting in your way of accomplishing this big goal? She said, scarcity mindset is big. And she says, and it doesn't help. I just went, oh, mic drop. That was so powerful. She says, it makes me more anxious. I get frozen and then I don't do anything. Scarcity mindset can lead to paralysis, and that is not a great place to be. So, when you ask Joanne, what can we do? One of the areas we can change is our language. Instead of saying, I can't get away from my computer for 10 minutes to take a break at lunch, can you substitute that with, I choose to not step away from my computer to take a break? I choose. I get to put my kids to bed, which means my bedtime is later. Just by substituting those little words, I choose, I get to, instead of I can't or I have to. Do you see how that shifts into you have the power? You have the privilege instead of being disempowered or you are only doing it because you are obligated.
Now that's a mic drop right there, Erin. First of all, a beautiful insight that your client has just to even say the words of this is scarcity mindset and it's not helping me. And how I the shift, and I'm going to have to repeat it because it's so powerful. Shifting from I can't or I have to I choose and I get to. Please listen to that. Take note. It's beautiful reframes. How powerful. Thank you, Erin.
And it doesn't have to be complicated. We spend 24/7 with our brain. This is not the first time I've shared this concept. We spend 24/7 with our brain. Be mindful of how you treat yourself. Be mindful not only of the words that come out of your mouth, but of the ones that are in your head directed at yourself. Because just those tiny little shifts, are you saying, I have to or I get to? Is this a privilege or an obligation? And when we can get unstuck from that, it really can open up to more possibilities, helping you get curious instead of feeling stuck.
I'm taking notes for myself. I love how we can inspire each other. This is so powerful, Erin. Um, wow, like my brain is spinning with thinking of the topics that I talk about with my clients. And I have women physicians who work with me for a couple of years, and this keeps on coming up. You and I have both been in coaching for ourselves for many years, and this still comes up. So if you're listening to us and you're feeling bad because you feel bad about this, have the compassion to also know that you're not alone, because again, this is how our brain works. And the work that we're doing here is to learn these simple tools that can create lasting change. Many times, especially as women physicians, we like to complicate things and we want all the tools and we want all the affirmations and all the reframes. And we are here to remind you that this is a great place to start, especially when you're not feeling well. And by start, I don't mean like this is the beginning of the journey, because again, this is something that I'm going to start using, and I've been doing the work for a while. So it's very helpful. Erin, what else? Do you have another tool to give us that we can use to help us to use these terms, get out of the scarcity mindset, and I know I pronounce that funny, into abundance mindset?
By paying attention to who you spend your time with and asking yourself, what mindset do the people around me have? And I can vividly remember going to a spa day with some women that I had worked with. And I had started working with a coach. I'd started doing personal development. I started getting excited about the possibilities. And I no longer felt like I was thinking inside this tiny little box that physicians and healthcare providers tended to think in. And all that was coming out of their mouths was, lots of complaints, lots of the negative things that they were going through. And I felt like a bit of an alien or so, I didn't belong. I didn't fit in there because I wasn't um, buying into that. And I was thinking about what are the possibilities. And what I found is that I needed to start spending some time away from people in medicine because if you look at the burnout rates, the depression rates, the mental health rates, especially for primary care medicine, emergency medicine, women in medicine, all greater than 50%. If those are the only people you're hanging around with, it's going to be really hard to get a sense of positivity as the norm, of joy and enthusiasm, because over half the people you're around are going to be burned out. And what I found is that when I was challenged, for example, by my coach, who I was paying money to spend time with me. I was paying her to challenge me. And the two of the big gifts that my coach gave me, one is, and I'm coaching my client through these declaration sessions now, and that's where this beautiful insight came about for this client. So we're in the declaration sessions. We're just getting ready to start. It's at least my third round of 12 weeks of coaching with my coach. And she says, "These are the declaration sessions." And I was thinking, I don't know that I have anything to declare right now, Coach Kelly. And I was thinking in this small scarcity mindset. And this is after at least 24 weeks of coaching with a really great coach. What do I have to declare? Fast forward 6 months, and I'm in another coaching session with Kelly. And the insight that I gained was that Kelly saw me, the future me, the potential me that had broken beyond those limiting beliefs. As she was coaching me, she saw what was coming down the road with successful coaching, with successful mindset shifts. And I said to her, "Kelly, you remember when we had that session 6 months ago?" And I'm like, "What do I have to declare?" I now see what you saw in me. And it brings me real emotion because I think, oh my gosh, in the 8 or so years from when I started coaching, my life has completely shifted. My relationships have completely shifted. And when we talk about the shifts in my client that I met with recently, who had that powerful self coaching, and I see that happening more and more in her, it is such a powerful tool. And when I think about scarcity mindset, I just met with a potential corporate client, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, what you have to offer sounds so amazing. We don't even know if we can get funding. We believe that it's going to be helpful. We just don't know how we can get there." And versus let's see how we can problem solve. Let's see how we can figure this out. This sounds like the right thing. I believe we can make it work. So that's just the power of a coach understanding what's possible, not being limited by today's beliefs, and also then what happens when we kind of kick scarcity mindset to the curb and shift into abundance. What can be possible?
Oh, Erin, thank you so much for sharing that. I like my eyes got teary, and it's part of why I love spending time with you because I think we're a good pair here. We help each other out and with a lot of love and compassion. And how beautiful that a coach who knows you can see things about yourself that you cannot see yet. And then this is the power of coaching too. As the client, you can borrow her belief in you while you get to it yourself. And again, I'm not 100% sure that's correct English, but you get the message. And it right and that now you can be that for your clients too. That's sort of, again, that's how, like I always talk about the ripple effect. And I'm gonna give a tangent because there's no coincidences. I was cleaning one of my like portfolio for an agenda because I'm like getting ready for next year, and I need the perfect journal, and I was thinking about it, and I was cleaning it, and I found some notes because I take notes and I journal, and I found this of 2 years ago, and I wrote some of my scarcity mindset beliefs, and I'm from a very vulnerable place. I am going to share this. I wrote, I feel like I missed my chance. I don't know where I was coming from, but I like note cards with this. Then I wrote, yeah, I need to work less as a doctor, which I'm assuming that I'm thinking of my wanting to do more coaching, but I feel it's irresponsible. Yikes. Talk about scarcity and all the wonderful things that we're doing now. I cannot lower my hours as a doctor. I miss my opportunity. I just wanted to share that because I just found these right before we logged in to record. So, and I'm glad that I'm not there, but I can see my brain takes me there sometimes. And it was through coaching that I was able to modify some of those beliefs. So I challenge you as our listener to think about what are some of those thoughts for you and how can you start reframing them?
And I'm going to bounce off of your tangent of journaling because Joanne, you are such a good journaler. I'm excited. If you're watching the video of this, you can see my lighting isn't great. I'm not in my usual office. I'm traveling. One of my sister-in-laws that I'm traveling with says, I finally started journaling. She told me that at lunch today. And I was like, I brought all these journals and I haven't started journaling yet. And it's so powerful because it gives us a roadmap of where we've been. And when I can tell my clients all the significant changes that happened in my life. Within 6 weeks, I was coming home 3 to 4 hours earlier from 6 weeks of starting to work with my coach. You know how I know that is because I journaled about it. I took notes at every coaching session. So I had this map of where I had been. How long did it take me to make this change? How far into it? Where were we at here? And I have stacks of journals at home. Yes, paper journals that you take a pen and paper to, not electronic, where I can go back and reflect on the differences in my life, the before and after. And to me, there's a huge line in the sand, pre-coaching and post-coaching. And scarcity mindset, stuck in a rut, disempowered victim until I was age 50. And thank goodness, I was just talking to a woman today about celebrating birthdays. She said, oh, we're celebrating my birthday, but I think I'm going to celebrate it all week or all month. And I was like, oh, I celebrated my 50th all year. And one of the things I gave to myself at my 50th birthday was the gift of coaching. And life will never be the same. So,
Yes. And so again, think about it for you. What does scarcity mean for you? We talked about it in different ways to define it and that sense of lack or victim into more opportunity and abundance. And thinking about some of the mindsets that a lot of us as women physicians have, like, it's too big, I don't have time, there's no way I can do that. And remembering that we can reframe that as ways to just open up to opportunities and just asking yourself, is there a better way? And getting a little bit more positive. And then we talked, oof, I have to repeat this, how Erin said, replacing I can't or I have to with I choose and I get to. I'm going to feel that over and over in saying that. And I love what you said too. We didn't talk too much about this, but the power of the people around you. If it feels negative, you don't have to be there that long, and make sure that you have people around you that boosts your confidence and helps you think of other possibilities. And like Erin shared, like the coaches who can believe in you before you can believe in yourself. I that always warms my heart. Erin, any other words of wisdom you want to share in this topic?
we don't have to start big. I commonly talk about a 1% shift in your mindset committing. We've talked about many ideas in this podcast and referred to some other podcasts that have even more ideas. Choose one thing, do it repeatedly, consistently, and see where that leads. When that becomes more normal and a habit so that it's not extra work, then do the next commitment. But just be okay with starting small, and small, consistent, committed changes will lead to big outcomes.
So powerful. And if you loved this episode as much as I did, make sure that you're sharing it with your friends, anyone else that you can think of who can benefit from our podcast, and leave us a review. What do you think? We've had more than 50 episodes now. Are there things that you would want us to hear more, for us to say more? And rate and review. That's how we're going to get in front of more people. And stay tuned for our next episode.
Do you want exclusive resources and the opportunity to connect with us? Then visit createmeaninginmedicine.com now, where you'll dive deeper into how you can create meaning in medicine. And if you're serious about optimizing your results, take 2 quick steps now. Connect with us on the website and tune in to the next episode.